What is going on, guys? Robert from Robert's here with a new video for you guys, and today I'll be talking about Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Now, back in 2016, there was a rumor that Marvel vs. Capcom 4 would be coming out next year, and then eventually a trailer release where they included a fan favorite, Mega Man, along the side of Ryu, Iron Man, and new face Captain Marvel. Now, back in 1996, a legendary crossover happened between two massive juggernauts of the 90s, combining Capcom's Street Fighter franchise with Marvel's X-Men and put them into one game with each other. And this will start something that will eventually be known as the Marvel vs. Capcom series, which I'm pretty sure you've heard of. Now, the X-Men helped launch Capcom's Versus series, because they got Marvel vs. Capcom, Sentinel vs. Capcom, pretty much taking Capcom's fighters and putting them against another franchise's characters and fighters. And the X-Men played a pivotal role in that, to get that started with X-Men vs. Street Fighter. And eventually a new Marvel vs. Capcom was released called Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and something happened. There were noticeable issues with the roster for some longtime fans, because fan favorites like Gambit, Juggernaut, and Cyclops were taken out for characters like Modark, She-Hulk, and Rocket Raccoon. And when Rocket Raccoon was announced, they was wondering why he was put in, but it was told that Marvel was going to be having a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, so they wanted to put him in the game. And now we've moved to having no X-Men at all in the Marvel vs. Capcom 4. And this is because they want to focus on Marvel Cinematic Universe characters, or MCU characters. Pretty much the characters that are in the Marvel movies right now. Well, shocker, it's true. The director claims that fans won't remember some of the X-Men. Now, he goes on to say, your modern Marvel fan, maybe they don't even remember some of the X-Men characters, but they do know some of the Guardian of the Galaxy characters or Black Panther. And this is a load of crock, because Guardians of the Galaxy came out the same year that X-Men Days of Future Past came out. And if you're talking about Black Panther, he came in Captain America 3, Civil War, and that came out the same month as X-Men Apocalypse. And if we're talking about like movies that were more recent, we have Logan that has come out recently as well. So a modern Marvel fan will probably have seen one of these X-Men movies or seen commercials for it or advertisements for it. And if you follow the comics, the X-Men just got off of the X-Men vs. Inhumans crossover event, and they are well established in the comics too. So to say that they wouldn't remember some of the X-Men characters is a little bullshit. But this is just to show you that Disney is shafting the X-Men fans again, despite the X-Men helping to start this franchise of Marvel vs. Capcom. Now, if we go back to 1996, you'll see that the X-Men are present in the roster. The following year, when they decided to add Marvel superheroes in general, the X-Men were still represented back in 1997. Now, in 1998, with the first Marvel vs. Capcom game, you see that the X-Men, once again, are represented along with other Marvel characters. Then we get to 2000 with Marvel vs. Capcom 2. You see plenty of X-Men represented here, along with other Marvel characters. 2011 with Marvel vs. Capcom 3, the X-Men are present along with other Marvel characters. And then Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, they came out the same year. X-Men still present, other Marvel characters still present. However, when we come to 2017, you'll notice that the X-Men are gone. They're not there. And this is a pretty big deal, because imagine a Street Fighter game without Ryu or Ken in the roster. And that's pretty much what this is when they remove the X-Men from Marvel vs. Capcom, because they are the ones who started it. And arguably, Wolverine has been the flagship Marvel character for the Marvel vs. Capcom series. And you see him here fighting Ryu for the trailer or opening cinematic for Marvel vs. Capcom 3. So you have one flagship fighting the other flagship. The most popular X-Men character, arguably, fighting the face of Capcom Street Fighter series. But That was then, this is now. Apparently, we live in an age where movies dictate which characters are put in the video games. I mean, why else would you take out the X-Men, which have notable fan favorite characters, such as Magneto, Master of Magnet, Storm, Sentinel, and Wolverine. And those are just the ones that made the Marvel vs. Capcom 3 roster. People have been asking for Gambit for years. And I think people want Cyclops as well. And I'm pretty sure I would love to see Juggernaut back. Colossus, any of the X-Men, really. They got some really cool characters, but they're being replaced with Rocket Raccoon and Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy. And just like the movies dictate what goes on in the comics, now a popular character who Fox happens to have the movie rights to, like Wolverine and Deadpool, are noticeably absent from this game. What a coincidence, right? And this is because Disney is still shafting the X-Men because of bitterness towards Fox because they own the film rights for the X-Men. So when you look at Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite's roster, you see that the key Avengers are present, which is not surprising. You have Captain America. You have the Hulk. You have Iron Man. And you have Thor. And they've been in the other games, and they normally represent the Avengers. Because if you could pick 3 characters, you can pick these 3, have the Avengers. Now, they added Doctor Strange in, and I think he's a good pick. He has a lot of fans, and he has an interesting fighting style, so totally cool. Bringing Thanos back was an awesome idea. I'm happy to see Thanos back in this game. So these are characters that I completely approve of. These are great picks. And we know that Captain Marvel is a plug for her MCU movie that's supposed to be coming out one of these years. Next couple of years it should be coming out. And we know that Black Panther is a plug for his MCU movie that's supposed to be coming out, I think, next year. So I understand why these 2 characters are in the game. Makes sense. They want to focus on the MCU a little bit. They want to have this as a trailer or teaser for characters that are coming up, to get their name out there for people that may not know them. Totally understand that. That's cool. However, the rest that they added on Marvel's end, I call bullshit on. Nova is a waste of a character slot. I know it was in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, but I just don't remember people asking for Nova. Demanding that Nova be in the game. Rocket Raccoon wasn't asked for the first time, and I'm pretty sure the second time around people weren't asking for him. Hawkeye is a waste of a slot as well. I mean, when you look at the Avengers movies, he's the one that's doing the least most of the time, while everyone else with superpower does stuff. And, I mean, who really wanted Ultron? I mean, the second Avengers movie was kind of meh. Ultron's not a bad comic book character, but I mean, you got Thanos as a villain, so I don't see why they would add Ultron in. So I think he's a waste too. So let's go ahead and call this game what it is. It's really MCU versus Capcom. And what gets me is that when the MCU starts to influence comics and video games, I start to get sick of the MCU. And that's how I feel about the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now. I'm just getting tired of it at this point because it's going outside of the movies. The movies are fine. Make your movies. But outside of the movies, let them do what they normally do. Don't try to shoehorn in the movie characters because Marvel has a lot of cool characters out there. And the ones that are present in the movies aren't the best ones, to be honest. And I mean, you got to ask yourself with this game, where is Spider-Man? Well, according to the DLC leak, he's a DLC character. Yes. Arguably Marvel's most popular superhero, and I know he's easily recognizable. Not in the initial roster for a Marvel vs. Capcom game. When the first Marvel superheroes game, he's been there. So he's been there pretty much from the beginning. Except X-Men vs. Street Fighter. After that, he's been in every game. And you're going to have him as DLC? Really? And not only that, the MCU is taking aim at Capcom's iconic characters. If you look at this post, and it comes from Reddit, and it's supposed to be from an intern that was working on the art for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, you'll see that Disney has specific orders to make Marvel and Mega Man characters look way more appealing opposed to the Capcom side, and to get way more screen time than Capcom characters in a Capcom game. You see the problem here. Now, if you look at Chun-Li and Morgan's character model art, they look bad. Like, we're with PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and the graphics for games look so great. This is something I would expect from like the early PlayStation 3 era, you know? Same with Dante and Chris. It's like they were experimenting with something new, like a new game engine or something. But for this to be happening on the PlayStation 4, after they've had experience doing it before, there's really no excuse for such a poor job. Like, I mean, look at this. This looks pretty bad compared to other games that are running on the same console. It's ridiculous. And arguably, even the older games represented the characters better, to where they had a better presentation. Like, seriously, who would approve this change? Well, you know who did? Disney, because they wanted to make sure that Marvel characters look good. And by Marvel, I mean MCU characters look good. Now, let's compare Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite to its competitors just with aesthetics and presentation. Look at this image from Tekken 7. Look at this image from Injustice 2. Hell, look at Guilty Gear XR Rev 2. And don't even get me started on Dragon Fighter Z. All of these games just absolutely destroy Capcom's presentation when it comes to graphics. They look more appealing. And the reason I'm not getting this game, number one, was that fan favorite X-Men characters were excluded from the game just cause. There was no real reason not to have the X-Men in this title. And then when you look at Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite compared to the last games, you'll see that it's lacking its flair like the old games had. Like when you look at this picture of the Hulk here compared to Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and then you look at Infinite, it seems to be lacking something. It kind of looks bland. And this is on top of the fugly Capcom character models to make the MCU characters look better in comparison. So I'm definitely not getting this game. And let's be honest, the MCU, they make okay movies. It's not like their movies are garbage or trash. I'm not going to say that. But I will say that a lot of the MCU movies are mediocre. And they get an excuse because they tie into the larger MCU universe. But just because they can get away with meh movies and people go to flock to see them, that does not mean that people will want to spend $65 for a meh game. Because look at where we are now. We have the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and there are some beautiful games out there. Especially beautiful fighting games. And they make this game look meh. You don't want to be meh in video games. You want to have something to stand out and say, hey, we're here, we're flashy, we're cool, pick up this game. But right now, Marvel vs. Capcom just doesn't have that wow factor of, wow, I need to pick up that game because it looks cool. It's kind of just, oh, the MCU characters are there, so I guess I should get it because there's no other Marvel games available. So no doubt, this is how some fans feel, to where you want to just go back and play the old titles because what's out now just doesn't have what you want. If you're not a fan of the MCU, then I don't see a lot of reason to purchase this game. Especially if you're a fan of like the X-Men or other Marvel characters that just have been excluded just cause. I mean, Capcom side looks nice, but that's like half the game. I doubt they let you pay half price just to play with Capcom side. And is it any wonder why people are more interested in Dragon Fighter Z? Like, when you look at the trailer for that, they're trying to wow you. They're trying to make the game look cool. They're trying to make it look exciting. Like, the trailer is great. By all means, go check it out. But when you compare that to Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, well, one of these look like the developers cared. The other ones looks like a cheap cash grab. And undoubtedly, there will be Capcom fanboys defending this game. And I know they're already doing this, doing damage control for Capcom, because the Church of Capcom, you know? infinite hypermeter if you reach salvation. And I'm going to be completely honest here. In this game's current state, from what's been released, this game is not ready. And this game is supposed to come out in September, if I'm not mistaken. That's like 2 months away. 2 or 3 months away. This game really is not ready. So if they are going to continue with trying to push this out, I think they need to actually delay it. I don't think this game is ready for its launch. They should... Normally, people want games to come out immediately, but they should really just stop this one to improve the quality for it. And I don't know who to blame for this. I don't know if this is Capcom's fault for doing Capcom things like they normally do with pushing out an unfinished product, or is this some of Disney's fault for making it harder for Capcom to do their job or whatever. But whatever it is, whoever's fault it is, wherever the blame lies, they need to just fix it ASAP, because honestly, the fans deserve better than this. Because really stop and think about it. This game is not even out yet. It's like 2 or 3 months from release. And they're talking about 6 DLC characters. 6 from a roster that's already kind of meh. So this deluxe edition is probably, I would see them selling it for like $100. That have all the DLC characters, but they're not going to be there at launch. You know, you're going to have to wait months for it. And this reminds me of something that they've done before, last year? Where they make you pay full price for a product that's not complete. Why does that sound familiar? It's like a game recently did that Capcom released. I can't really think of which game that would have been. So, yeah, this game should really be delayed to improve the quality of it. Even though I'm not going to buy this game, I still want people to get the best game possible, especially when you're dropping your money on it. My recommendation, don't buy into the hype. They're going to try to hype this up to the moon because hype sells. So it's kind of like a form of peer pressure. You know, you get hype and then someone else wants you to get hype. And then you're going off of emotions about what it could be and you don't realize what you get. And I would not recommend picking this up at launch. Don't get this on day one. Just wait a couple of weeks, see the reviews, wait till the hype dies down and see if it actually is worth something. And if you don't heed these warnings, then you get what you get. If Capcom burns you, that's on you. And that pretty much concludes this video, guys. Hope you guys have a nice day.